Today we're going to do section 1.3a, which is distance. And our vocab here is the word distance. The distance between 2 points is the length of the segment with those points as endpoints. So, if I was to draw a segment here, I'm going to have a point here, and then a point here. So we can do a horizontal line. We can use a ruler to measure that. We can count on a graph. We also have a vertical line we could do. We can measure that distance. And really the challenge for this chapter is to learn how to measure the diagonal distance. And we can't measure the diagonal distance by just counting. We're going to have to do a mathematical equation. So we're going to do a little bit of counting and a little bit of calculating. Okay, so if we're just trying to find the distance of this line over here, I'm going to highlight it, P to Q, all we're going to do is subtract. So for example, an easy one would be if this is 5 and this is 1, we just do 5 minus 1 and the distance is 4. What gets tricky is the negatives. Okay, so if we did we'll make this 3 and we'll make this negative 5. What's the distance between 3 and negative 5? So I'm just going to do 3 minus negative 5. Once we do that, we know that we change it to plus a positive, and the distance is 8. If we have the little lines here, we can also count, if you guys like to count better, and you can count up to 8. Okay, last example would be if this was negative 2 and this was negative 7. What's the distance between negative 2 and negative 7? I'm going to take negative 2 minus a negative 7, change it to plus a positive, and my distance is 5. Or I can count in between there. It's up to you. What I would like you guys to do on this next slide, so I have this Edpuzzle video here, and what I would like you to do on this next slide is count the distance. For example, the first one says A and C. You're going to find the distance between here's A and here's C. Find that distance, so on and so forth. So go ahead right now and do that. Okay, let's check your answers. So to find AC, I can count, or I can do negative 4 minus negative 7 equals 3. Or you could have counted and gone 1, 2, 3, like that. Okay, CE. I'm going to erase these. Oops. Okay, so now let's look at C, and let's look at E. What's the distance between C and E? Go ahead and count if you'd like, or the shortcut is to do 2 minus negative 4, and that equals 6. So the distance between those is 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. All right, last one we're going to do here is FB. So here's F, here's B. That's a lot of numbers to count. I'm just going to do 5 minus a negative 6 and plus a positive. That will come out to 11. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Okay, so hopefully you guys are able to count on a straight line there. That's going to come in handy when we come to our next equation. Okay, our next equation, we are not going to do this equation here. Okay, what we're going to do for our distance formula is Pythagorean theorem. And we talked about this a little bit in the review. A squared plus B squared equals C squared. Make sure you have that equation down. Okay, and the distance that we're going to find is the C. Okay, and I will show you exactly how to solve these. It's going to take a little bit of drawing and some counting and then some calculating. All right, so here's what your picture is going to look like. If I asked you to draw a picture, I'm going to do a very basic problem here. Okay, I'm going to zoom in. We're going to call this point 2, 3. We're going to call this point 2, 6. And we're going to call this point 6, 3. What I'm going to do is I'm going to find the distance, change my color, find the distance between this point and this point. What I'm going to do is I'm going to look at my two numbers that are different. My two numbers are different are 6 and 3. Okay, so all I'm going to do is 6 minus 3 equals 3. Okay, so we're going to call this side A. Then over here, I'm going to use a green color and look at my numbers here that are different. I'll put a box around them, my 2 and my 6. Notice the 3's are the same. So I'm going to do 6 minus 2 equals 4. And that's going to be B. So those are my numbers. So here's my equation. A squared plus B squared equals C squared. I'm going to plug in my numbers now. A is 3. Sorry about that. So 3 squared plus 4 squared equals C squared. And some of you did really well on this on the review. This is actually the same problem I gave you on the review. 3 squared is 9. 4 squared is 16. Hopefully you're all using a calculator. Equals C squared. I'm going to come up over here. 9 plus 16 is 25. Equals C squared. And remember, what do I have to do now to get C by itself? I don't divide. I take the square root of both sides. The square root of C squared is C. The square root of 25 is 5. So the distance between A and B right here, as where I'm scribbling, that distance is 5. And that is my final answer. So there's only going to be one question like this on the quiz or test. There's a lot of steps involved. So you're going to have to draw a triangle. And I'm going to show you how to do that on the next problem. You're just going to make a sketch. Okay, it says find the distance between the pair of points -5, 6 and 8, -4. Okay, now we're going to get a little more challenging because we have some negatives. So I'm going to draw my graph. I'm going to draw it in blue. I'm trying to make it nice and straight for you. Okay, and now I'm going to just estimate my points on the graph. I'm going to use a different color here. We'll use OHS colors, orange and blue. So E is -5, 6. So I can just 3, 4, 5. That's -5. And -5, 6 will be somewhere up there. I need to write my point. So you guys should be writing this along with me if you haven't done so already. And then F is 8, -4. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then -4 will be somewhere down here. So this is 8, -4. And now I'm going to draw my triangle. Go back to blue. I'm going to draw my triangle here. It's always going to be a right triangle. And you do that. You could also draw it up here, where I'm drawing my dotted line. You could also draw the triangle there. You're going to get the same answer. Okay. Here's the trick. I have to name this point down in the corner. Well, how far over is that? It's -5 over. How far down is it? It's -4 down. So you're sharing those 2 points. Now I'm going to take my distance, change back to blue. I'm going to find my distance between here and here. Why? Those are the 2 different points. So I'm going to do 6 minus a -4. Those become positive, and I get 10. We're going to call that my A. Okay, now I look at my different numbers over here. My 2 different numbers are -5 and 8. So if I do an 8 minus a -5, I get 13. So those are my 2 sides, a 10 and a 13. I'm going to call that B. And now we're going to plug it into our equation. I'm going to go back to orange. I'll write it up top. A squared plus B squared equals C squared. So for A, I plug in 10 squared. B, I plug in 13 squared equals C squared. In my calculator, 10 squared is 100. 13 squared is 169. I add those together. 269 equals C squared. And now I square root both sides. And I should get C equals, I don't have my calculator ready. I should have. Let's give it a shot here. The square root of 2. It's going to be a decimal. We're going to round to the nearest tenth, 16.4. So my distance between those 2 points is 16.4. All right, let's do another one, and then you guys are going to try one on your own. Okay, once again, I'm going to draw my graph. Okay, I'm going to do 4, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, whatever works for you. We're just sketching these. We don't even need graph paper. 4, 3, and then -3, 1, 2, 3, -7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That is -3, -7. We're trying to find this distance right there. Okay, so I'm going to make my right triangle. This time we'll make it, we'll just make it go this way. It really doesn't matter which way we go. It's a little bit off there. The key to these problems is I have to mark this coordinate the right way. So this coordinate is over 4, and it's down 7, -7. So now I need to find the distance between 3 and -7. I can certainly count along my line. The shortcut is 3 minus a -7, which is really 3 plus 7, which is 10. We'll call that A. You can call that A or B. I'm just calling it A. And then down here, we're going to look at my 4 and my -3. 4 minus a -3 is 7. That is my B. And now I'm going to do A squared plus B squared equals C squared. because I'm trying to find, here's C out here, the distance. A, I plug in 10 squared, plus B, I plug in 7 squared, equals C squared. And now I do 100 plus 7 squared is 49. You should be punching this all in your calculator, equals C squared. That adds up to 149. I'm running out of room here. I'm going to take the square root of both sides, make sure we do that. 149 is not the answer. I'm going to type it in my calculator. And I'm going to find that the square root of 149, and a lot of these are decimals, which is okay, is C equals 12.2. I hit the square root button in my calculator, and that's what I found. One way to check our answer is C is always longer than A and B. So if 12.2 is longer than 10, and 12.2 is more than 7, but it's a similar type of number, it should be right. If it's 149, that's way too big to go with 10 and 7. You're going to try this last one on your own. Okay, so go ahead and try this one on your own. You're going to type in your answer, and then we'll go over it together. Okay, I'm going to draw my graph. I'm going to go faster on this one. I'm not going to talk as much, and I'm just going to draw. 2, 3, 1, 3, negative 1, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, positive 1. Negative 4, positive 1. And I'm trying to find this distance right here. So I'm going to draw my triangle. I'm not super accurate here with these straight lines, but okay. I need to name this point down here. That's going to be a negative 4, negative 1. So here I'm going to try to find my 1 minus negative 1, which is 2. Over here, so those are my two different numbers, right? Over here, my two different numbers are negative 4 and 3. So I'm going to do 3 minus a negative 4, and I get 7. Here's my equation. Is 2 squared. So sorry, this side should be A. This side down here is B. 2 squared plus 7 squared equals C squared. 4 plus 49 equals C squared. 4 plus 49 is 53 equals C squared. Of course I'm running out of room, but I'm going to take the square root of both sides. In my calculator, I'm going to type in the square root of 53. And rounding up, I'm going to write my answer way down here in the bottom. C equals 7.3. It was 7.28, so I rounded up to 7.3. Hopefully you got that answer. If not, we can go over some more examples in class.